"Sir, it's tagged for removal, no overnight parking. And your registration's expired." "It's gotta go," the tow truck driver said, his voice flat and unsympathetic as he hooked the chains to the battered old camper van. Michael M. McDonald, 67, stood by helplessly, his heart sinking. The van wasn't just a vehicle, it was his home, his last refuge. "Please," Mac pleaded. "I'm a veteran. I'm working on getting the registration sorted. Just give me a little more time." The driver shrugged. "Not my call, old-timer. It's on the impound list." 20 minutes later, as the tow truck rumbled away, dragging Mac's life behind it, a convoy of military green Humvees, led by a stern-faced Army colonel, decisively blocked the entire street. If you believe no one who served should be left stranded, type "support our vets" below. Michael M. McDonald had learned long ago how to survive on very little. His world had shrunk to the cramped interior of his 1988 camper van, a relic from a more hopeful time. Now, dented and flecked with rust, it was still stubbornly functional. Parked on a quiet industrial side street, it was a spot that usually avoided too much attention from parking enforcement. Inside, every inch was carefully used: a small sleeping berth, a tiny propane stove, shelves neatly lined with a handful of worn books, and a framed photo of a smiling woman with kind eyes, his late wife, Sarah. Mac was a combat engineer, a retired Army sergeant first class. He'd built bridges under fire, cleared minefields, patched up more broken equipment than he could count. He knew how to survive, how to improvise, but navigating the bureaucratic minefields of civilian life, that was a different kind of battle altogether. After Sarah's prolonged illness wiped out their savings, and then his own health problems made steady work impossible, Mac's challenges multiplied. He wasn't lazy. His hands were calloused, his back ached from old wounds and new hardships. He picked up odd jobs when he could, but the van was his constant, a shelter against the elements and the world's indifference. He kept it as clean and tidy as possible, a small island of order in a chaotic life. The expired registration wasn't negligence. It was a cruel catch-22. He needed an address to renew it, but he lived in the van. He'd been trying to get help from a local veterans outreach group, but the wheels of bureaucracy turned slowly, agonizingly slowly. That morning, Mac woke to find a bright orange impound warning sticker slapped across his windshield. His heart dropped. He spent the morning frantically calling the city, the VA, anyone who might help, but all he got were automated menus, long hold times, and polite but unhelpful deferrals. He knew the clock was ticking. Around 2 p.m., the tow truck arrived, its yellow lights flashing with a predatory cheerfulness. The driver, a burly man named Gus, hopped out, clipboard in hand, already sizing up the van. Mac approached hesitantly. "Excuse me, sir, about the van." Gus cut him off gruffly. "Yeah, I know. Tagged and flagged. Gotta take it." "Look," Mac tried again, voice earnest, "I'm Michael McDonald. I'm a veteran. This van, it's my home. I'm actively working with the VA to sort out the registration and find housing. I just need a little more time. A day or two, maybe." Gus was unmoved, already attaching the heavy tow chains. "Heard it all before, buddy. Everyone's got a story. My job is to clear the street. City ordinance, expired tags, no overnight parking. It's on the list, it goes." He didn't meet Mac's eyes, moving with practiced efficiency, treating the van like any other scrap metal. "Please," Mac said, voice cracking, desperation creeping in. "Everything I own is in there, my wife's picture, my service records. Can I at least get some essentials out?" Gus paused, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes, but shook his head. "Can't let you in once it's hooked. Liability. Should have thought of that before." He cinched the chain tight. "Besides, you'll get your chance to clear it out at the impound lot, after you pay the tow fee and daily storage." Mac knew he didn't have the money, not for the tow, not for storage. This wasn't just losing transportation, it was losing everything. He watched a cold dread settle in his stomach as Gus operated the hydraulic lift. The van groaned as its front wheels lifted off the ground. Nearby warehouse workers glanced over, some with pity, most with indifference, then went back to their tasks. No one intervened. Mac stood helpless on the sidewalk, his rucksack with a few essentials at his feet, watching his life being towed away. The finality crushed him. The worn steering wheel where Sarah's hands had rested. The small crack in the side window he'd never fixed, the dent from a falling branch during last spring's storm. All the little details that made it his were disappearing down the street. Shame and failure weighed heavy, even though he'd done his best against overwhelming odds. He'd faced enemy fire with less fear than he felt now. Watching his last sanctuary disappear, he didn't know where he'd sleep tonight. The veteran's shelter was full. He already knew that. He sank onto a nearby concrete curb, the fight draining out of him. He buried his face in his hands, fighting back tears of frustration and despair. After a moment, he took a ragged breath. Giving up wasn't in his DNA. He'd been trained to find solutions, to adapt and overcome. He fumbled for his old, beat-up cell phone. There was one person he hadn't called, someone he hesitated to bother. A long shot, but desperation was a powerful motivator. He scrolled to a contact listed simply as Davies. Ret Pow. Colonel James Davies. Davies had been Mac's battalion commander during his last tour. A hard-nosed but fair officer who valued his NCOs. They hadn't spoken in years, only exchanged the occasional Christmas card. Mac wasn't even sure the number was still good. He dialed, his finger trembling. The phone rang and rang. Just as he was about to give up, a crisp, authoritative voice answered. Davies. Colonel Davies here. Sir, it's Sergeant Michael McDonald. Mac, from the 3rd Engineers. There was a pause, then recognition in the colonel's voice. Mac? Sergeant McDonald? Good Lord, man, it's been an age. How are you? Mac took another shaky breath. Not so good, sir. Actually, that's why I'm calling. I'm in a desperate spot. He quickly, concisely explained his situation, the van, his home, towed due to expired registration, his struggle with veteran status and homelessness. No embellishments, no pleading, just facts. They just took it, sir. Corner of 4th and Industrial, headed to the city impound lot, I think. Colonel Davies listened. His silence was more telling than words. When Mac finished, the colonel's voice was tight with controlled anger. 4th and Industrial, you said? How long ago, Sergeant? Maybe 20 minutes now, sir, Mac answered, glancing at his watch. The tow truck was from Citywide Towing, he knew. Stay right where you are. Don't move, Davies ordered. I'll make some calls. This is unacceptable. The line went dead. Mac sat, a tiny ember of hope rekindled. He tried not to let it burn too bright. Minutes passed. The street returned to its usual quiet rhythm, distant machinery, passing trucks. A stray cat picked its way through an overgrown lot opposite. 10 minutes went by. Then 15. Mac started to think maybe the colonel had hit the same bureaucratic brick walls he had. Then he heard it, not the rumble of a single tow truck, but something different. A deeper, coordinated thrum. He looked up the street toward the direction the tow truck had gone. Turning the corner with urgency and precision came a convoy, not civilian vehicles, but military green Humvees. 3 of them. Their distinctive profiles unmistakable. Not racing, but moving with purpose. Lights flashing subtly, not aggressively, but demanding right of way. They turned onto 4th Street. Without hesitation, 2 of the Humvees angled sharply, blocking the entire roadway from curb to curb. 100 yards down from where Mac sat, the 3rd Humvee pulled up beside him. The passenger door opened. Out stepped Colonel James Davies. Older, grayer, dressed in civilian clothes, a pressed polo and slacks, but his military bearing was undeniable. His eyes, sharp and intelligent, immediately found Mac. Colonel Davies strode over, concern and steely resolve etched on his face. Sergeant McDonald, he said, extending a hand and pulling Mac to his feet with surprising strength. Good to see you, though I wish it were under better circumstances. Mac was stunned. The colonel's sudden appearance, and the military vehicles now blockading the street, was beyond anything he expected. Colonel Davies glanced toward the tow truck still idling, chains rattling as Gus prepared to haul the van away. "Gus," Davies called out, voice calm but firm, carrying unmistakable authority. "Step away from the vehicle." The tow driver paused, confused but wary. "This van belongs to Sergeant McDonald here," the colonel said, turning back to Mac. "You say it's his home?" "Yes, sir. Everything I own is inside," Mac replied quietly, voice cracking with emotion. Davies looked over at Gus again. "The impound order is being rescinded. We'll handle this properly." Gus glanced down the street at the Humvees blocking any escape routes and muttered under his breath, then reluctantly released the chains. Mac watched, breath caught in his throat, as the van was lowered gently back onto the pavement. Davies didn't waste time. He pulled out his phone, fingers flying. Within minutes, a few more figures arrived, men and women in civilian clothes but with the unmistakable bearing of former or current military. Some carried folders, others clipboards, and all wore determined expressions. The impound crew looked on, clearly outmatched. "Sergeant McDonald," Davies said, turning back with a nod, "we're not letting you lose your home today." One of the newcomers, a woman with a Veterans Outreach badge, stepped forward. "I'm Lisa Carter, from the Veterans Housing Assistance Program. We've been working to get you off the street and into stable housing." Mac blinked, overwhelmed. "Really? I've called. I've waited. Nobody helped." Lisa smiled gently. "We're here now." Davies continued, "We're mobilizing resources immediately. A temporary place for you tonight, and then we'll get you into something permanent." The street, once just a forgotten corner, now buzzed with urgent activity. Mac's rucksack, which had felt so heavy a moment ago, now seemed a little lighter. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, hope flickered. As the impound lot was called off and the tow truck departed, Davies stayed by Mac's side. "We're going to make sure this doesn't happen again," he said, voice low but steady. "You served your country. You deserve respect." Mac swallowed hard, fighting tears. "I didn't think anyone cared anymore," he admitted. Davies clasped his shoulder. "We do. And we'll prove it." The military convoy eased back down the street, engines fading into the hum of the city. But the message remained loud and clear. No veteran would be left behind.